So yeah, Darby. So what I wanted to ask you first of all was just a little bit more about. You came back to the practice after a little bit of a hiatus of 15 years or so.
Well, as I said, it wasn't. We
Not
didn't
full
stop. We didn't stop. We stopped gradually.
And then you had to build it back up again.
Yeah, well, I stopped when I was as I said, snowboarding.
Yeah.
And I would, before snowboard season, I'd do a little bit of yoga to get fit for snowboarding.
Ready for it.
In the summer, I was playing golf, so I was.
So it's not like a full stop. But how do you think that is different so you've been there already once?
Well, we stopped and then we started.
And then you started.
Pretty much we said, now I'm back. I wanted to get back to yoga.
Yeah.
I was asking for the gift
Yeah.
to be able to get back. And then I took it and I started every day, went back to the discipline and starting. So I can't remember how long the timing was, but it wasn't that long before we were doing primary, then intermediate, and then getting into advanced. So
and we're
I'd say
talking
within
years or
no,
months?
months.
Months.
Yeah, it didn't take that long.
And how is that different? Because now, of course, we're getting a lot of people now, yoga is so popular, coming to yoga in later life, maybe late 40s, even early 50s, maybe not necessarily from a physical background. And of course they're going into the yoga studio, seeing these young things around them, doing all sorts of fancy stuff. It's difficult on the mind as to how for them to progress and what should their expectations be, really, if you're coming to it later in life.
Ideally they don't have expectations and enjoy the journey. But it's true, they come in and they see younger people wanting to practice, and depends on as you said, depends on the background. You know, we have one lady in our studio, she used to be a dancer. So her practice is amazing. You know, she's doing primary, all of intermediate,
Yeah.
and she comes in every day, dedicates herself to it. But she had the background. People who haven't had the background find it more difficult.
Yeah.
You know, most of them most of them are, as you said, if they're not fit, they're overweight, they don't have the opening of the hips, and they just want to do. They want to learn to. You know, we had the question say, how do we lift up and jump back?
Yeah, straight away.
Straight away.
Day 2.
You know, they want, well, not day 2, but day 5, they want to jump back.
Yeah.
Want all the tricks how to do it, and it's
Yeah.
even for people who are doing that, lifting up, jumping back, they generally have the training
Yeah.
when they're like teenagers, 12 years old, doing some type of gymnastics or something like that,
Yeah.
dance, with those muscles, and that's the age period, right? From what I can see, is the age period to build those muscles up.
Is that youth, that early teens?
Well, that's what happened to me. I was I wasn't a professional gymnast, but we did it at school. So it was after school,
Yeah.
and I was in the gymnastic team for a few years until I started surfing. But that period was all this calisthenics and parallel bars, horizontal bars, rings, developed a certain strength and I guess flexibility.
Yeah.
I remember when I was doing gymnastics, I could reach back and grab my ankles, my heels one time. So it was there, even though I didn't start the yoga until I was 29, the grounding, the foundation was there. So when I started the yoga, it was pretty easy to develop,
Yeah.
plus the years of surfing,
Yeah.
so stronger arms.
So it's always going to be, a lot of hips and shoulders, isn't it, for anybody coming without that background at a later age too?
Yes, it's much harder. So, you know, we're just trying to get them to breathe and move as they're breathing and try and understand where the movement comes from. They're not trying to compete with other people, with the kids, and trying to pull themselves to break their bodies, because you're not going to last.
And I was talking to Joanne a little bit earlier about what you do as far as those hip opening postures. Some teachers sort of take them out to start with, so like the Bandhas and the half Padmasanas, and then they put them in a little bit later. But do you give them a soft modification first and then work as they begin to open, or how do you work?
Again, it depends on how I'm working. If I'm working on the Mysore and we come to Mysore classes, we never leave out posture.
Okay.
But we will give a variation instead of coming to half lotus.
That's attainable, yeah.
Yeah, something, you know, maybe just holding the leg up here and holding or putting a block under the knee and knees. You know, if the knee's in the air and it's going to cause an injury, then we support it.
Yeah.
And gradually, hopefully it opens up and what we're looking for is more not attaining the posture, but more obtaining the breath and the strength, so we can add more postures that way.
Yeah.
So, but there's definitely not. But if I'm doing a lead class and it's a weekly lead class, Then I'll leave out postures. I won't put in the Ardha Baddhas.
Yeah.
I'll just bring in Janu Shirshasana A and Rishasana A and C, and leave out all the more difficult ones.
Yeah.
And give them a chance to fall in love with the yoga.
Before too many hurdles.
Yeah, so then they'll come back and I want more. And if
Yeah.
you give them too much at once, they'll just run away.
There was an article, I think it was in the New York Times, about hip injuries and yoga in general. Did you read that one?
I didn't read it, but I pretty much know what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I was of the opinion that probably people that attracted to yoga in the first place and keep it going because they've probably got open hips to start with, it's that much easier to fall in love with it when it's already coming. Do you have any feelings on the ideas of?
Again, it doesn't really matter who you are. If you're pushing your body and you're trying to bend it into places where it shouldn't be going, you're gonna injure yourself. And so it's not the fault of the yoga. The yoga is brilliant. The yoga is going to put you into alignment, and it's going to fix your hips. Any injuries you have will help it, as long as you don't try to do more. It's how you approach it.
Yeah.
If you're trying to push it, you're going to break it.
Yeah.
So there's ways of going about it.
I wanted to talk to you about bandhas as well, because bandhas and core, because you have quite not a unique approach necessarily, but certainly a way that you work, which helps us maybe get in contact with a bit more, because we all talk about it all the time, don't we? We might think that they're engaged, but reality isn't always there.
I've been to the stage where I've said, oh, I've got my bandha, I know what it is now.
Yeah.
I think 3 times in the 1 month I went through the same conversation. So it's continually changing. And, it's something that people talk about and they think they've got it, but it's not something that you can really describe and really nail it down. And quite often people just have the tightness somewhere in the core, somewhere down here, and consider it bandhas. And it's not always bandhas. So if I see people doing a forward bend and they become flat like pancakes, I know they don't have bandha. Because you cannot, if you have a bandha, you cannot allow yourself to get that flat. Because you've got a resistance stopping you from going. You've got the belly coming in and it's going to push back this way. How do you go forward with that? It just holds you back, so you have to come down in a different way, a different method.
Can you give us a little demonstration of what you're talking about?
I'm going to come with bandha and I'm really holding here.
And what's going through your mind when you're holding there? Is it lower abdominals you're drawing in, lifting the pelvic floor, or is it more of a...
what I'm thinking about is my feet.
Okay.
If I spread my toes and get this action with my feet, then that just connects everywhere. And I'm not creating a lot of tightness. The tightness that I create in my legs is to stop that movement.
Stop the rolling
Just stop the rolling to the side. And it's not a lot. I just stop that.
Okay.
Stop it that way. And that stops, spread the toes. And that whole connection happens to here.
And are you drawing up on your kneecaps and thighs? How much is going on in the quadriceps?
That happens naturally.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to do anything
Too strong.
I'm just doing this.
Okay.
And all those muscles that I need work. But not only this one starts to work, this one, everything works. So
rather than isolated.
Whereas if you isolate the quadriceps and do this,
Yeah.
then the heel lifts, and then I'm basically shortening the distance here,
Yeah.
contracting here, which is going to contract here. Instead of getting lift, I'm now contracting the psoas and it's pulling me down.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I spread, there's a lengthening and expansion of the muscles.
And are you pressing through the balls of your
Basically
feet?
pushing through the balls of feet, sideways, inside.
Yeah.
You know, the whole foot is just, it's just, if you do this to your hand and you lift your arm
Yeah.
up, and I spread the fingers, see what happens to the arm.
Yeah.
The arm connects, as long as I have the shoulders back.
Yeah.
So this happens, this all connects, I can move it around, and yet it's very, if I wanted to bend that arm,
Yeah.
it's very difficult because
Yeah.
if I make it strong muscle, it's much easier to bend it and break it
Yeah.
than doing this.
Energetically, a different experience.
Different
altogether.
experience, and that's the experience you get here. And as soon as you do this, if you see, suddenly I sit up, and that's the connection coming through. And then I've got this feeling here,
Yeah.
which if we want to call it, we call it the bandha. We call it core bandha. And I'm holding it, I'm really holding it. It makes it very difficult to bend. I have to hold this back and then I come down. So I'm coming down in that direction.
Yeah.
Whereas if I try to come forward, then this just pops out.
Yeah.
So this goes forward, and I come down, and then I can squeeze all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I can feel the pelvic, the perineum or something, but it's not bandha.
Because often we're told to lead with the chest, aren't we? And I know we had this conversation off camera the other day.
Yeah, well,
and it's not so easy to connect, is it?
Well, don't forget what we do every posture. We come up into a posture and we do Dandasana, whether it's sitting here or here. So we're creating this lift.
Yeah.
And we're lengthening the front of our body. So we lengthen through here, we're actually creating space, and the vertebrae are going to go a little bit apart, lift up. So we're creating this lift. Then, instead of just coming down like this and pushing it all together, ideally we're lifting up and then pulling back here and coming forward. So we can get the length and come forward.
Yeah.
So that's generally the way I'm working, pulling up. And this is all organs are coming back, lifting up, pressing up against the diaphragm. And then we have to lift up over it.
Over the top.
Over the top. So
and is there any change when you're down at the bottom? Is your psoas contracted when you're at the bottom or not?
Psoas are definitely not contracted. There's no, you don't want contraction. You want toning. So for sure, the psoas are toning, but now it's the same as this muscle. You contract it, it does this, pulls in. So if I contract the psoas, then it's going to try and bring my, you see a lot of people with lower doses because they have short psoas. Yeah. And it's pulling the spine forward. So we don't want that, but we want a toning.
We could call it almost engagement, right?
An engagement, toning. And so even though the psoas engage, there's a pliability to it. It can still extend. Yeah. Right. But once it's contracted, like these muscles contract, that's it. They're in. But if you can engage them here, there's still a chance that they can lengthen. So we still want to create length.
And what about in the twists? Is it a different way of engaging in the twists, or more subtle, or how do you feel it?
It's the same thing, and it's different, but it's
different. Same thing, but different.
Different. I don't even have to put my leg. If I come here, what I'm doing, what I'm doing in a twist is, again, I'm going to make sure this is coming in, and when I twist, it's then, and I'm going to, if I want to create a twist to the left, I'll press my right leg down. Yeah. So basically, there you are starting to work for psoas now. Okay. So one side is compressing, one side is releasing, allowing the twist to happen. What I do look for in a twist is not this. If I try to twist there, then the vertebrae in the back are compressing again. Yeah. And they're pushing down, and it can't turn. I mean, it's really just upper body, which is what most of the dominant part of twisting is, the upper body. But we can use the lumbar area as well. If we create this and create the tailbone to descend or tuck, curl under, then the lumbar will get a little longer and there'll be a release of friction and we can turn. So my action of twisting is press here, this comes in. Yeah. So the first motion is there's a downward motion, everything going, and then I'll lift it up with this rip and create the twist.
And create the twist there.
So the twist is coming there, whether I have a leg there or not. And then every breath, relax, breathe in, and then do it again. Breathe in, exhale, twist. So every breath is allowing the movement to happen. And that's the importance. One of the things I emphasize in breathing is that anything you do is done on the exhalation. Any movement that you want to create in twisting or reaching should be done on the exhalation. And the inhalation is there just to breathe in, to receive. You breathe in, let the lungs expand, let the energy, and then move the energy around. And the simplicity of moving energy around is not that much, it's not that hard, it's that. Just pressing the finger, that much effort, pressing the fingers together, and not that hard, just a little pinch, and is enough, as long as we have the shoulders in the correct position.
So moving that.
So this will move in, it'll connect all the way to the core. So I often teach it, forward bend, breathe in, press. Relax. And go forward. So it's always work. It's more work, in fact.
More work to be doing.
More work than this.
Than just lying down. Yeah. Yeah. And I know we were talking as well about clasping the wrist and the chances of drawing up their shoulders around the neck.
Generally, that's what I see.
Yeah.
Most Westerns, it's different in Asia because Asians have short legs, long torsos, and they can pretty much touch their head to their toes. And for them to reach around is no big deal. Yeah.
So if somebody is reaching around, what are the warning signs that they should be looking for?
Well, the first thing is always positioning of the shoulders. Yeah. This is, for me, is very important. This shoulder should be there all the time. It's just an alignment that we have that allows us to breathe. And this is the number one thing we're doing in yoga, is to breathe. without the breath it's not yoga. And Guruji says this, Krishnamacharya says this, we need to breathe. And if we can breathe, then we're doing yoga. But if we're doing this, it's restricting our way of breathing. We can't breathe as fully, as efficiently. So if people are starting to reach around like this, and this is the shape they get, then they can't breathe. So, you know, that's the number one thing against the rule of number one thing. So, you know, I can reach around and keep the shoulders back.
Yes.
But most people cannot. So,
so if they can't, if they notice their shoulders are coming up, then hold the sides of their feet.
I'm always just holding the sides.
And just gently.
And gently squeeze. The same thing. Just doing this, pressing in, pushing the feet out in both directions, pressing. Again, inhale, relax, exhale, push. And as soon as that pushing happens, whether I'm doing it here or touching, this comes in. And that's the control. There's the bandhas.
And their elbows, while I've got you down there, are their elbows parallel with the shoulders? Are they out, or are they drifting towards the ground? Or
I'm kind of working them here, and I'll do two things. It's kind of like a butterfly. It's just lifting up as I breathe in, exhale, and that's can be a downward motion, could be the fingers, anything that's, again, it's not forcing, it's just gently down, and then this pressure pushing here, again, goes through. Again, the importance of this shoulder girdle, the alignment in the shoulders coming in, connecting, you know, all this, what nadis, tendons, whatever you call it, ligaments, meridians, all these things come through the body, and they all connect to the chest, the back, and basically connect to the diaphragm, coming through to the diaphragm. So we have this half here. The legs, exactly the same thing. All this stuff comes through the legs, through here, through the psoas, and connect to the spine, and again up to the diaphragm. So we're basically in two halves.
And does the subtlety of the core or bandha change on the inhale, exhale? Are you re-establishing it, or? It
changes. You again, never. There should be never tightness. It's never like, I got the bandha. You know, it's not
holding a coin.
It's there. You're holding it. And the subtlety is that you breathe in and allow energy to move. So you're here. I'm still toned, but there's a softness. And then I exhale, then I give it a little more pressure. And that just tightens it, or gives it the emphasis to allow you to move from it. So it's a press down, and then that's where exhale. I'm moving and holding it in, and it's giving me the energy to extend the spine to come forward. And also the whole leg works, the whole leg pressing down, creating an upward lift here, allowing me to reach forward rather than trying to pull. You know, and as I say in my classes, stretching is bad for you. And people go,
what? Yeah.
What are you talking about? And then I give you an example. Okay, grab somebody's arm and pull like crazy. That's stretching, and it's pulling the ligaments, the connective tissue. But if you reach, like you do in the morning when you wake up, you do that, then you end up extending, but the result is the body gets stretched. So a different way of looking at it.
Pull it away from the bones.
Yeah, don't pull it away from the bones. Let yourself reach out and take the benefit of extension to stretch the body.
I love talking to guys that have been practicing for like so many years, like yourself, because it's a little bit of a playground, isn't it? And you've had time to experiment and say that doesn't really work, or that sometimes you come across things by chance and think, oh, that really, I can connect with that, I can understand that. Is there anything, specific things that stand out in your mind as those sort of light bulb moments when you thought, oh God, yeah, that's really helped me to get in contact with this, or?
Yeah, well, I think teaching.
Teaching
is one of the biggest things, because teaching, you're doing things in my own body, but when I'm teaching, I'm asking people to do things they can't do them.
Yeah.
And then I have to go into their bodies and discover what they're doing. And I think one of the biggest things that happened was that I was with a student, and she was in injury, hurt her knees and stuff. And I realized that everything she was doing, the muscles were so tight. And that was the first instant. I think I saw that and said, hey, you've hurt your knee and you've got tight muscles. Let me think, is that connected? And then I started looking at other people who were injured and realized that everybody that I saw that was injured was using the quadriceps to bend the legs, or using muscles to bend the arms, which is quite a modern idea when we're doing aerobics. Let's do weights.
Yeah.
And, keep working that way, you just tear the connective tissue and eventually break the joints. And so then I started to change that and get people to work with relaxation. And that's very much my teaching now. When I see somebody, my teaching is lift your leg up, don't use any muscle, just bring it back. And then let it release. And then there's no tightness in the groins, there's no tightness in the psoas. And yet to create the action, once you're there, just spread your toes. And then everything connects again. I remember, I was teaching in a workshop, and I went in the morning, and the woman who was hosting me she was in the fitness industry. So she's sitting there, she's working her legs. And I said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to get this muscle, I'm trying to get that muscle, this muscle. I said, press down your big toe. Are they all there? And she was surprised that everything was there.
Yeah.
From doing something very simple. It was just working from an
cue
extremity.
Almost. Sometimes they call it a cue.
Yeah. A cue. But she was looking at everything, trying to, and she couldn't move.
Yeah.
Whereas this allows movement.
Because it's very difficult for us, isn't it? Because that's not the way we normally process things, is it? By breaking things down. So if we want a glass of water, we just reach for it, don't we?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly. That's what I try to teach. But a lot of people don't, especially in the legs. There's a way that people work with the legs, and it starts from sitting on a chair.
Yeah.
How do you stand up? Which muscles do you use to stand up? Do you use the quadriceps, which means you're standing more on the back of the heel, or do you come from the front of the foot, which means you're using the whole leg? As when from standing up from the floor is a very different process to standing up from a chair.
Yeah.
Because when you're standing up from the floor, you push and you extend from the toes, and that's where the habits start. If you're sitting on a chair and you're using quadriceps, that is your motor response.
Yeah.
That's what happens up here in the basically the computer. It just does that. And every time you want to straighten your legs, it does the same thing. And that's the hard thing to change for people. That's the biggest problem. How do we change them, especially in the legs, which they use all the time without thinking?
This actually leads us nicely really into this whole thing of patterns, and do we need to consciously, because we all have these ways of doing things. Do you think, because some people will teach that if you just keep doing the practice, that will change and you will find the right place to be magically, or other people teach patterns are so ingrained that we need to physically think of changing them in order to come out of that pattern and take ourselves to a new place. Which camp are you in?
You have to consciously change it.
Yeah.
You have to. There's not going to, those patterns are so ingrained. But even to the thing where you say, straighten your legs, you cannot say that anymore. Because every time you straighten your legs, that pattern will come in. You've got to say, okay, I need to learn how to do it and give it another name.
Yeah.
Like extend the legs. And so then the mind thinks of something else and does it a different way. Because it doesn't matter. Years later you say straighten the legs and you'll go back to that ingrained
exactly
pattern.
The same as before.
Same as before. And it's very hard. Even my practice now, every time I jump forward and look down, I look at my feet. And I just check them, make sure they're both balanced, both even, both lifting the same. Yeah. And then I'll take the next move. Even if I'm coming here, I'm coming down, forward bend, okay, how's my feet? Okay, now I can go down.
Yeah,
and,
a quick check.
And I have a natural tendency in my own body that this leg lifts, the knees are a little weaker.
Okay.
So I have to consciously look at that to make sure this is correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if I don't, this bends, even years and years later. So it's.
And one of the big things is placing your hands on the mat, isn't it? When you first place them down, so many people you see with even just half an inch difference between their hands, and that's right from the word go, and then the down dog is immediately
changed. Yeah. That I don't find so much of a problem. What I find more is the knuckle lifting up.
Yes.
That's
on one side more than the other?
Could be one side more than the other, yeah. But it's just lifting up, and then they have tendonitis.
Yeah.
Some problems, elbows, wrists. And then even the beauty of it is that if they do have injuries and you give them the right alignment, even if it's tendonitis, it doesn't hurt, as long as they're doing it correctly. As soon as it goes out, the pain comes back again. Another really good example, which is hard to fathom, is when people have hamstring injuries.
Yes, so at the attachment point on the issue of tuberosity.
It doesn't matter. And again, I use this as a teaching tool for that person, but I don't allow them to bend the legs.
So how do you teach, how do you modify for a hamstring injury?
Teach them that.
Press for the big toe.
And get the right connection through all those, and people do it, and they've got hamstring injuries. And they go down, they can go much further, unless it's an extreme hamstring injury. But even then, they can go almost down and they'll feel it, and then it's time to back
And
off.
before the pain.
But, yeah, but they can almost, quite often they go all the way without feeling the pain. And same coming up. Keep the legs, push through, use the legs straight, and then the injury heals. They've also, in that injury, learned how to use the legs the correct way, so it doesn't happen again. Whereas people who bend the legs, and then that heals, and they go back again, they injure themselves again. So they haven't learned anything. They're just, the old pattern is coming back. So I love it when people, hamstring injury, it's not nice that you have one, but now you can learn, and you've got something that tells you every time you do it the wrong way.
And then you can learn and correct it.
And you learn, and you have enough time to change, which and everything takes time. We used to say 500 repetitions to change a habit, and another 500 repetitions to make the new thing become the habit.
Cool.
So that, or smoking, or whatever it is, coffee without milk is 21 days, and then you can change the pattern, change it.
So something else you work extensively with is tensile bands, and I've got no idea how you use this. So perhaps you could.
I just happen to have one with me.
Just already prepared in the oven. So perhaps you could tell us, what the hell do you do with these things?
I usually start it with standing up, but we can do it sitting down.
Okay.
And if I'm going to start, I teach you a couple of ways. It's pretty nice to show this way. And basically all I'm doing is breathing in, relax, and as I exhale, I pull back.
Okay.
And it's just pulling the elbows back. Again, shoulders are in alignment. As this happens, there's a connection that comes here. So I get that exhale, and then I ask people to come forward. The inhalation is the relaxation. Exhale comes back. Inhale, exhale. And the only difference is when you come up, is to also pull back. And this pulling back connects right in here.
So this is a tool to help us find that engagement?
To find it. And once you've got it, okay, now I know where it is, I can go down. But what's pretty nice is when you have that, the effect is that you're using the arms to pull.
Yeah.
See what happens now. So now I put it around the buttocks and pull forward.
Okay.
And the same thing happens. I don't know if I can see it there, but you see what's happening there. It's coming back.
Okay.
So that's the feeling at exhale, and this all connects. As long as I have shoulders back, legs connected, reaching.
Yeah.
And then exhale, inhale back, exhale, and then come forward. You can see how it stays back.
Yeah.
And then come forward in this way. Inhale back, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, and then exhale. And then I'll inhale, push, and come back.
As you come back
and
up.
we'll maintain this whole connection through here.
And what brought you to start using these in the first place?
I don't know.
You happened across them?
I happened to. We used to use them to teach people to spread the toes.
Okay.
So we used to. What did we do? We used to do things like this. Put it in and wrap it around. Take it around there. So that's how it all started.
That's the sort of thing I used to do. I think, 'cause my toes just sit
and
there.
we used to do the standing postures in our practice, trying to break the rubber band.
Right.
And headstands is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so it started there, and then I guess I started to understand this process of, instead of pulling, I was starting to squeeze the big toe and get this action of reaching forward. And then I started to push. So this pushing, as I went forward, really connected to here, even though I could still go forward, was a pushing. Breathe in, exhale, push.
Push that.
And then I guess from there it just progressed to using a rubber band, because for demonstrations it was brilliant. Once I put the rubber band on, I got these effects, and it just connected straight away. And started using it on students, they pick it up straight away.
Also looks like it has the benefit of working the rhomboids and the lower traps.
Yeah, but it's only there. It's not there to use in the practice. It's
just a training aid
to teach you to feel something. It's like, here's a posture that's quite interesting. Is Ardha Baddha Pada Paschimottanasana.
Yeah.
Okay. So I see Krishnamacharya, I see Patabi Joyce doing the posture. Maybe I'll do the other leg. Get a better angle. And they come in.
Yeah.
And you see them doing it. And if they're talking about bandha and what they're doing with their foot, the first thing they're going to do, and which is I teach, flex the foot.
Okay.
So now the heel's going right back into the lower abdomen.
Yeah.
So it's pushing back. I cannot come forward with the ribs. I've got to come back, and I come down in this one.
Yeah.
And what's so brilliant is that when you look at Pattabhi Jois, the picture of Pattabhi Jois and Krishnamacharya, they very much have this very round back going into it.
Yes.
If you see the pictures, the reason is the heel's pushing right back, pulling right back.
And they've got a curve
So
over
the
the top of
bandhas
it.
get coming way back in. They cannot come forward anymore to create this motion.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that and see them doing that exercise, maybe I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what it is. And when I also go back to understanding Pattabhi Jois's teachings, when I really go back to hear what he was saying, a lot of that is what he meant, and not this flattening down. You know, even looking at the toes, which is one of the drishti points we have.
Yes.
Everybody looks at the toes and then we're down.
Yeah.
You know, we asked him in 2001 when we went back, where should we be looking?
Yeah.
In Paschimottanha, so he said, look down.
Yeah.
When you read Yogamala, and we're drifting away from bandhas, but the drishti, the only mention I see in Yogamala about drishti is Surya Namaskar.
Yeah.
Odd number, look up. Even number, look down. And that's his drishti. So, but coming back to bandhas.
Bandhas. What else do you want
Yeah.
to tell us about bandhas?
That's pretty much what it is.
It's as simple
There's
as
just,
that.
you know, what I teach in the legs to get it is one of the things is my first lesson in the class, and
Yeah.
if I do it standing up, is to bend the legs, which we're doing now,
Yeah.
to extend the foot, so you reach up the heels, then you extend up to the ceiling, lengthening, and then you bring the foot back. And then we have this connection from here, there,
Right the way
rather
through.
than doing this, which
Yeah.
is quadricep
Yeah.
engaging, and then the leg becomes heavy. It's this push, reach, lengthen, and then the leg becomes very light. But the connection that happens is to the diaphragm, and then we can move from there. And you can see that there's a lift in my body from that. Whereas if I do quadricep and come down, see that there's I can't lift up. Whereas that creates the lift.